Now I read before you the message, availability. It begins with a message from Babuji Maharaj, dated 26th October 2005 at 10 a.m. I will actually read the message. The original message. When your time of oblivion or beatitude has come, what will become of your current torments? They will be lost in the mists of time without any substance. Forget them and focus in the heart of the immutable peace, that which is not deceitful in its eternal truth. Go beyond this life, project yourself into this peace, and you will then come out of its reinvigorated by the graces it provides. Follow your master in spirit. Travel in this way, my child. As for your spirit, it does not remain confined to this world of matter. Every day you experience it under his high guidance. Wherever he is, whatever he does, a connection is established between you for reasons which are humanly beyond your understanding. Your mutual faith in authorities that are guiding your steps ensures that your personal abilities fit together and work wonders in this special context. Time will tell. On earth, it takes a lot time of anything being built on other vibratory levels to take shape. Surrender and faith are more appropriate than ever. So it is at all levels of hierarchy. God, in his infinite greatness, expects from his creatures only this: submission in the appropriate spirit to serving his most elaborate plans, which have motivated his choices. Now, the following passage or the following lines I have quoted in this message of availability. Babuji says, to serve entails that one's life is no longer one's own, and that in a way one makes oneself available to deal with it. In this field, more than elsewhere, one should make choices that meet one's profound aspirations to devote oneself to service without any materialistic motive. Everyone's karma is full of opportunities to find fulfillment in keeping with one's personal capabilities. Many of our aspirants engage in service, keenly aware of this reality. In whispers from the brighter world, the divine message is transmitted from Babuji Maharaj to his scribe, Madame Helen Perret. Babuji often praises the scribe's availability and commitment to service. She had no priorities apart from her beloved Babuji. Due to her absolute availability, she was able to evolve to the highest levels of spiritual repose, even amidst personal difficulties and great setbacks. I'd like to share with you something on her level of availability. Once I was visiting Montpellier. I met her. And after meeting her, she says, Babuji would like to meet you tomorrow morning. Please come. So I was very happy and delighted. But then person who was escorting me to her for translations and edits, he and his wife suggested for Brother Michel, who is no more, and Sister Janet, his wife, that we should not disturb this meeting of Mama and Babuji Maharaj at 10 o'clock. Maybe Babuji would meet you later. I found it very logical. But then when I reached there at almost around 11:15, Mama was telling me, our medium, I told you yesterday, come early in the morning. There is a meeting with Babuji Maharaj. I was not available. But she went ahead, received the messages, and consoled me for this misunderstanding. Anyway, even during her very distressing health, one can understand how ordinary human beings like us would create excuses. Oh, I have a headache or I have vertigo. People who has vertigo can't even write anything, can't even sit down, can't even focus on a paper. But she, despite of her vertigo, she would continue to scribe, despite of such great levels of inconveniences and, I would say, miseries. So that level of commitment we have to be available under all circumstances. And she would also say something like this, whether I'm sick or healthy, whether I'm in the bed or in the chair, what am I going to do anyway? So might as well connect and start writing something. If I remain in the bed, nothing will happen. My pain is not going to go away. My vertigo is not going to go away. It's better to sit and begin working. This is a big lesson for us. Often we say, oh, I have a headache, and we skip meditations. Will your meditation interfere with your headache, or will it help? I think we should be wiser in making choices and make ourselves available to go through it. In fact, time and again I have felt, despite of these inconveniences, when we force ourselves and do what we have to do, maintaining our dharma, maintaining our duty, we somehow clear out, pass out tests. Resistance is created by nature. But if we succumb to headache and postpone meditations or important things, then we only suffer. We will not be able to be on the evolutionary path because we keep on postponing and postponing and postponing. Availability means total surrender and acceptance to whatsoever happens and do what we have to do. Total availability to this is godliness. Total availability to God's work is wisdom. Any excuse will not do. We can have millions of reasons why not to be available. There is only one reason to be available, my dharma towards myself. Availability suggests an openness to serve the Master and to be worked upon by him. The paramount example of availability is Babuji Maharaj himself. Never a moment passed when his attention was diverted from his master, Lalaji. Had such a moment ever occurred, he would have considered it a cause of great repentance. Lalaji was not merely the focal point of Babuji's awareness. Rather, Babuji's awareness was merged in that of Lalaji to such an extent that their unified consciousness exemplified the very principle of spiritual osmosis. Any thought impulse arising in Lalaji's consciousness would pulse instantaneously into Babuji's awareness, and it was this that was the basis for the great service to humanity that it was Babuji's destiny to perform. Those who sat at Babuji's feet in his courtyard in Shahjahanpur as his hookah bubbled away beside him were privileged to witness his unique availability to this work by virtue of his availability to Lalaji himself. Babuji's body sat idle, curled up in his chair, but his attention soared wherever needed. Lalaji defined the very sum and substance of Babuji's existence. In psychology, there is a concept known as availability bias. Availability bias is a cognitive bias. People tend to favor information that is very recent, easily accessible, or that is otherwise on top of your mind. Our tendency is to keep our full availability in reserve and instead lead our availability to those things that are nearest to us. Ephemeral phenomena become our priorities, palpable objects of thought and senses that are most vivid to our daily experience, capturing our attention and motivating our actions. For example, suppose you have recently seen many news reports about robberies in your neighborhood. In that case, you may overestimate the likelihood of being robbed yourself. Your mind gives excessive importance to these news reports, both because they are recent and because there are many of them leading to misunderstanding. The cognitions that contribute to availability bias constitute not only our recent memories, but our entire individual creation, our sanskaric impulses, our wishes, and our aversions, our network of thoughts, emotions, and tendencies, and of course, our sensory inputs. So, when we understand this from Sahajmarg perspective, it goes beyond this availability bias concept offered by psychology. Psychology says only the recent phenomena, recent episodes interferes and creates availability bias. But our availability, meaning what I hear, what I see, what I understand, can be tainted by preconditioning, by my parents, by the society, by community. So samskara plays out a greater and intense role, much more than the recent phenomena. Suppose you heard 12 different songs played simultaneously at the same time, 12 songs at the same time, by 12 different musicians, each in a different key and with a different rhythm. How would it sound? However beautiful each song is individually, however masterful the musicians, they would only create noise. Likewise, our mind takes an interest in multiple things and becomes a center of chaos. There is nothing wrong with the mind. It likes to think, think, and think. But it tends to remain absorbed in its own creation and becomes complex. We must train the mind. Our intentions must be focused. We must learn to play one song at a time, one musical instrument at a time, one thought at a time. Otherwise, there is no beauty, but only dissonance. Our availability of energy should be just one practice. Practicing any method demands some level of trust and confidence in that method. Practicing multiple methods creates multiple channels in mind. It only means you are not happy with the method you are already practicing. It is like saying, I am married to my wife, but available to all. You are not fully available to anyone thus. Availability to many is availability to none. Saranagati and devotion means giving yourself entirely. If you give yourself to many, are you giving yourself entirely to anyone at all? You are always holding some part of yourself in reserve. This is mine. I will not share it. You are not giving yourself to anything. I will repeat an ancient story Swami Vivekananda shared at Chicago, Parliament of World's Religions. The year was 1893. In Sanskrit, the story is called Kupa Manduka. He says, once there was a frog that lived in a little well. It was born there and never once left that well in its whole life. The frog never imagined that there could be a world beyond the boundaries of its little well. That is, until another frog hopped in the well. This new frog was from the ocean, and it told the well frog about the ocean's waves, currents, depths, and vastness. But the well frog could not believe any of this, for no ocean would be as vast as his well where he lived. So he laughed at the ocean frog and gave him a kick. Vivekananda told this story to explain the differences between religions, meaning that some people are stuck in their Hindu wells, others are imprisoned in their Christian wells, and so forth. The analogy goes further. We are all well frogs, imprisoned in the wells of our own individual and collective creations. We lend great importance to the contents of the personal well, but even more importance to its resident, the very self. Rarely do we consider looking beyond this shadowy layer of self. The well symbolizes the proximity of information that triggers our availability bias towards ephemeral objects, inhibiting our bond with the eternal. Sahajmarg is a way of transcendence. Let me explain a little bit on transcendence, what it really means. Often people talk about transcendental meditation. What is this transcendence that you talk about? Some people say, I had a transcendental experience. What does it mean? I think we can understand it better seeing the example of planting a seed in the ground. What happens to the seed? Eventually, the covering, the shell around the seed will be broken. it will swell up and germinate with few leaves and grow to be a gigantic tree in eventual time. But for a tree to become that giant tree, that little seed will have to be destroyed. It will have to undergo its own destruction. The little mind that we all possess will also have to go this transcendence, going beyond the mind. What can we say about going beyond the mind? Nothing can be spoken. It can only be experienced. That's why Vedas and Upanishad says, those higher lofty conditions can never be described. Only thing that we can say is neti, neti, neti. Something inside us also thrives like a seed, the ego, myness. And as we advance spiritually, we begin to feel awareness of us as humanity. So we graduate, we transcend from I, me and mine to ours. And going beyond this, we, ours and us, we go into understanding what God is, Tao. So the journey, spiritual journey, is to move from individuality to our combined existence to His existence. So there too there is transcendence from self to collective self to divine self. At each level, there is a psychological death. There is no real death. It's only psychological death. And that's what Babaji calls it as leading a life of living dead. It's not that you are dead, but you are leading a life as if you are dead at the ego level. And it is this ego, much more than desires, that plays havoc in the life of a spiritual person. I'll continue with this a little later. I think it's quite a long message, so I'll pause here. So thank you, and we'll continue with this later in the evening. Thank you.
Brings us closer to a greener future. Welcome to the Green Kana Run at Kana Shantivanam, a place where life thrives in all its forms. Feel the rhythm of the earth as you run and reconnect with your soul. Let us ignite a deeper purpose.
First, 21K. I think half done. It's all in the mind.
Kana is a very special place. Nothing like to match it. It has lovely forests, good lakes, lovely gardens. and a very spiritual atmosphere. So please do join us. Thank you. Namaskaram.